Welcome to the Sensitive Warrior, where feeling everything is your superpower. I want you to come dive with me into an exciting, uplifting podcast celebrating the superpowers of highly sensitive people. Hi, I'm Doreen Lang. I'm author of Embracing Venus, Achieve a Life Lit Up for Highly Sensitive People, and a coach committed to helping highly sensitive individuals thrive. As an HSP myself, I know the pain and struggle that we can feel, and I created this podcast with you in mind. I also created a program called Embracing Venus, where I help clients. It's a 3-month program where we meet every other week, virtually, and sometimes in my studio in Blossom Healing Studio in Norwell, Mass., where I give Reiki and I give this coaching. The reason I share that with you is because a number of my clients will be coming on to tell their fascinating stories, and I'm excited for you to hear about them. I take clients through, the people you're going to meet, I take them through different issues that they struggle with. As a highly sensitive person, I know firsthand what they are, but people that come in for Reiki, which I'll explain in a minute what Reiki is, really helps them relax, but also really gets to the heart of what a highly sensitive person struggles with. So my program, and which we're also going to, which I train on and I coach on, but we're also going to discuss here in this podcast, are things like boundaries, how to say no without guilt, dealing with energy vampires, and narcissists. And these are some key issues that people struggle with. In addition to others, there's some great creativity that people are missing. Some people feel left behind. They're not their authentic self anymore because their empathy takes them to take care of other people and not themselves. So I'm passionate about guiding people, and that is why I created this podcast for you. So what is an HSP, and how do you know if you have the sensitivity? Well, it's a sensory processing sensitivity. Bottom line, we feel everything. For instance, are you sensitive to bright lights? When I jumped into the studio, I asked Max, who's helping me produce this, if these lights could be lowered a little bit. And he said, possibly. And he didn't do it because he needs them this bright. So for me, this is going to be a struggle for me, but I understand that we need these lights. But this is exactly what I'm talking about. Bright lights, sounds, crowds. And do you feel yourself avoiding certain situations and environments? And ultimately, self-isolating. So these are some real challenges faced by highly sensitive people. And if you answered yes to any of those, you are absolutely in the right place. When I learned I was a highly sensitive person, or HSP is how I'll refer to this going forward, is I came inches away, literally inches away from crashing and burning. I had a horrible physical situation happen for me, and just looking back on it, reflecting now even, it really was a wake-up call. And I write about it in my book, Embracing Venus, as you see the book here. And this is something that I wrote as a guide to help people with this challenge. But the reason why I'm talking about this book right now is because I purposely wrote this book so that people can really have a better understanding of what's going on for them and to gain their strength and traction. So how common is this? Well, about 15 to 20% of the population has this sensitivity. And it's 50% are men and 50% are women. So it really is across the board. In my Reiki studio, and I'll introduce Reiki now, I have a 9-year-old little boy that comes in, and he's a highly sensitive kid. And I'm giving him tools and strategies on how to manage his sensitivity. So Reiki, what is Reiki? So when I had my issue, and why I'm so passionate about this and wrote my book and all this, is because the one thing that helped me calm me down from this, what I thought was an apparent heart attack, was I needed to calm down, right? I needed to relax and figure out what was going on with me. And I learned about something called Reiki. I had no idea what it was at the time. And I know there's people out there that call it woo-woo. That's an expression. But it's not woo-woo. It's really interesting. So Reiki is a Japanese form of deep relaxation with healing benefits. And it's pretty magnificent. I call it the pizza slice. And why I say that is because in our daily life, we have got a busyness, right? We've got lists, we've got to-dos, We've got meals to take care of, people to take care of, and our life is like we're a human doing, not a human being. And I call it the pizza slice. So right in the back of your mind, and this is what Reiki does for you and has done for me, is it allows you to calm all that busyness, all that monkey mind, and calm it down. And you can access, once you can relax, deeply relax, you can access this little slice in the back of your mind, in your brain, that has your wisdom, your power, your deep love, and answers to questions that you have been considering and pondering, could be for your whole life. And this is where a place you can access it. So the Reiki calms you down in such a way. And Reiki simply is, people come into my studio when they lie down on a table I have. All they do is take off their shoes, and they relax. And I put my hands with a light touch on their chakras, on the certain points of their bodies, which I won't get into now, but they're vortexes of energy that comes from their body and comes into their body. And I gently will put my hand on those vortexes of energy. And I can sense where they're holding stress, and they begin to feel a deep, deep relaxation. So I bring this up because this is a real challenge for HSPs to find a way to completely relax. But I do know that when I started writing about this, so many people, friends and family, there was some eye rolling. And it was very frustrating because out of all my 4 sisters, I am the one that doesn't want to get together. And it's not that I don't want to be with them. It's that they want to go to loud restaurants. I mean, I will call Tinker's Son in Norwell, not to make a reservation, but I will call there to see how noisy it is, because if it's really loud, I'm not going. I can hear that music going in the background. I think it's the Irish music. And there's no way I'm going to be able to relax, so I'm not going there. But my sisters all want to go out to restaurants that are loud, and I'm always trying to figure out where the quiet ones are, and that can be a challenge when it's an evening, Saturday or Sunday night out. But this is a real challenge for people. But we're also incredibly resilient and curious, and we will bend over backwards for a cause. And we are critical thinkers. My background was in high corporate operations. I managed shopping centers and brownstones in Boston. I went and got my bachelor's, my master's, a PhD. I mean, we are not, I think people will say woo-woo, they'll call us snowflakes. They have all sorts of names for people that are highly empathetic and highly sensitive. But let me give you a list of people that were and are highly sensitive, and see if you notice or you know any of these people. Albert Einstein, Abraham Lincoln, Ralph Emerson, Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, Mozart, Van Gogh, Gandhi, Maya Angelou, Steve Jobs, Neil Young, Barbara Streisand, Princess Diana, Steve Martin, Glenn Close, Nicole Kidman. I could go on. So you see, we're in very, very good company. So I want this podcast to really explain the clarity around sensitivity and how you can use these incredible gifts for your personal and professional lives. HSPs are prone to stress and chronic physical ailments. I can't tell you how many clients I see that have struggled with diverticulitis or IBS because they're holding all their stress in their stomach. And it's interesting also is weight gain. And it's not just because they're maybe having sweets here and there. That's not the case. What they're doing is the stress is creating an increase in cortisol, and the cortisol is something that's hanging around, and of course that equates to fat. So we have an overweight issue going on. In addition to which is addiction. I find that people are, at the end of the day, picture a huge helium balloon, right? So an HSP is struggling all day. They don't even know that they're struggling. They're taking energy from the lights, from the traffic, from the people, from the stress, from the phones, all that they're doing in the course of a day. And picture that balloon getting larger and larger and larger. Now, at the end of the day, it's an enormous balloon and it's painful. And just kind of picture that wrapped inside you. Now, how great would it be, right, to just kind of take a pin and just prick that down, right? But that's not the case. What happens is, what people do is they try to find a way to reduce their anxiety, to reduce their stress, and reduce this kind of inflammation, right? How they feel. But it's like huge energy. The energy is off the charts. It's high energy, but not in the best way. They're almost like they're still on a treadmill. So what they do is they overeat, which of course isn't helpful, overdrink, they will gamble, the people addicted to shopping, whatever it is that interests them to help them take their mind off of their discomfort, to put it somewhere else and try to reduce that anxiety that's over here and go over here. But the challenge with that is it doesn't work, because if you're overeating, you're usually not overeating tomatoes and cucumbers, right? You're probably overeating ice cream and cookies and crackers and whatever you're going to have at the evening at the end of the day. And that, of course, exacerbates more eating and sugar, which really just winds you up. And then the alcohol, of course, will put people to sleep a bit, but then they're up at 2:30, 3 a.m., miserable. And then the gambling has a financial cost to it, and shopping. So it really is not the cure. And that's why I take people back in my studio and I encourage people to put intention on this and gain clarity around how they're feeling. And here's the thing, I think of highly sensitivity, again, with my research and my writing, is a spectrum. And on one end, you have got people that have no empathy at all. And those people are called narcissists. Then you have people that are kind, they're empathetic. Their heart goes out to others that they see hurt and they're upset. And then you have the HSPs, the highly sensitive people. They are the ones that are sensitive to lights and sound. They feel for people deeply. But then you have the extremes. So you have the N for narcissists with no empathy. And then you have the extreme spectrum, which is an empath. Now, an empath is fascinating. An empath can have a bad rap, but let me explain it briefly to you. The difference between a highly sensitive person is a person whose heart goes out to somebody, right? A little boy falls down, a child falls down, and you say, oh, is he okay? A narcissist will see somebody fall down and they won't think twice. They'll go grab a sandwich. And then you have the empath. And the empath is the person that literally feels what another person is feeling. And this is exactly how I got in trouble. I was on a hamster wheel for over 20 years in business, working for different companies, high-level stress, phone calls, emails, 24/7, 7 days a week. It was insane. I don't even know why I stayed there looking back, but I did, because, money, you get familiar with the work and all that. But what tipped me over the edge was, for about 6 to 9 months, a family member stayed with us, and he was very depressed, and he couldn't find work, and he was at our dining room table, in the midst of our day and our evenings. And I would sit with him in the morning and kind of cheer him up, and I'll chat with you at noon, and I'm going to make lasagna tonight, and anything I could do to cheer this person up, because I just felt so deeply for him. He was having such a hard time. But I started, after several months, I started feeling very down, and I was having trouble getting out of bed, and I was getting depressed. And a couple months later, I found myself just absolutely exhausted, to a point where I was calling out from work. And I really didn't know what was wrong with me. I really did not know. And that's when I woke up one day and thought I was having a heart attack. What was happening was I was taking on the energy from him. I was taking on his pain, his suffering, into my own body. And I know this to be true because when I reflected back upon writing my book, when I was teaching college at Bay State or Bentley College about 15 years ago, it was a night course, I'll never forget it, and a student was sitting in front of me, and amongst other students, and I started feeling a horrible pressure in my chest. And I didn't know why, because I loved teaching, and it was going well. It wasn't like my first night I was nervous with new students, nothing like that. But I felt like there was something squeezing my chest. I was having trouble breathing. And all of a sudden, this young man stood up and he left the classroom, and a young woman followed him out. And after class, she came back, and he didn't. And she said, "I'm so sorry, Ms. Lang." She said, "Scott had had a horrible panic attack, and he's in the emergency room. He is having an episode, a psychotic episode, and they're going to keep him overnight. And I didn't put it together then. I just thought it was a coincidence. But as we all know, when things happen that are that painful or that strange, there really is no coincidence. It was reality. So an empath is a person who takes on, unknowingly, the energy of other people. And this is a real challenge for empaths and highly sensitive people who have these tendencies. And this podcast that I hope you're going to tune into and join us is going to talk about how you can manage this. And another layer, which is, I think, the most exciting part of all of this, is that people that have this sensitivity, they have very deep intuition. Their intuition is so deep and so incredible. It is like a brilliant compass that they must listen to. And the best way to explain it, I believe, is to share with you that when you are thinking about a person, place, or thing, and you have a strong body reaction to that, a lot of people just feel it and move on. But highly sensitive people, as what we want to do here in the podcast, as what we want to do is to share with you how important that is and how powerful it is, and to follow that, because that will be your brilliance. That will be your brilliance. So I'm going to share a story with you. When I give Reiki to my clients in my Reiki room, again, Blossom Healing Studios in Norwell, and I coach there, but the Reiki I give to people is for people who come in are mostly highly sensitive people, or people in physical pain, stressed out with family, with work, and they just want to find a place without drugs, alcohol, all the shopping, everything. They just want to come somewhere healthy, and they want to relax. And the reason I wrote this book, what caused me to write this book, was because when I was giving people Reiki, and they were relaxing, and they were going to a wonderful deep place to just chill out and recall what they need or decisions they needed with their own thoughts, I, because of my sensitivity and my empathic skills, I didn't know at the time when this was happening, the depth of it. And this is what we're going to share, and what's exciting on this show, is when they would leave, when they would bring back their awareness, and I would leave the room, and they would come and join me, and they'd sit down, and they always would say how relaxing it was, how much they enjoyed it. They didn't want to leave the room. Some people fall asleep because they feel so great. They're still getting the Reiki energy. But they would come out of the room, and they would sit with me, and I would write down exactly what they say, because I wanted to understand it, and when they come back next time to see if we could, get to that same great place, or share with them where they shared with me last time. But I would see things in that Reiki room. I would feel things. And it was the kinds of things that at first shocked me, almost frightened me, because I had no idea what was happening. And then I came to love and invite the different, I want to say, thoughts and messages that would come into me. One woman found me on the internet. Let's just call her Clara. She found me on the internet, and she said she's looking for Reiki. She drove all the way from North Dartmouth, Mass., and she wanted a session, and she read my my testimonials, and she was very impressed, and I said they were true, and so she said that's why I came. And so I gave her this really, I just gave her a nice Reiki session. And before we went in, she told me that she was sad. That's all she told me, was she was sad, and that she just really needed a place to just kind of come and relax. And I said, sure. So she came in, and I gave her the Reiki session. During the Reiki session, I saw two men in my mind's eye. Now, my room is pretty dark. It's not pitch black dark. I have a nice pillow on her eye, so she can't see, in terms of she could just block everything out and just relax. But I saw two men. I saw a tall, thin man, and the name Jack came to me, just like that, and a shorter man named Bill. And he had a big coat on. He was dressed really with heavy, loose clothes, like he just kind of like grabbed out of his closet and didn't care how he looked, just kind of a rumpled guy. Sweet guy, though. So I saw these two men, and they just popped in. They stood at the side of the room. And when I concentrated on it, they disappeared. But they were there, and I wasn't startled, because I was learning that this was something that was happening with me, for these people. So when I came out of the Reiki room and she joined me a few minutes later, and she sat and she said that she felt better, and I asked her why, and she said, well, first of all, I feel so relaxed, but second of all, she says, I really feel as though, I don't know, I just feel better. And I says, well, can I share what I saw? And she said, sure, please, I'd love that. And I said, I saw a tall, thin, very handsome man. He looked like JFK. And the name Jack came to me, and she, and I said, and I was scared when she did that. And I said, what? And she said, yesterday, my husband and I went to, and she started to cry. And she said, it was Father's Day yesterday. I said, yes. And she said, we went to his father's grave, and his father's name was Jack. And she was tearful, and she said, we call him JFK. And I said, wow. And it's very powerful for this to happen, obviously, but mostly because it's so emotional, because this really means something to people. And because I'm empathetic, I'm just as tearful as they are. It's almost ridiculous, but it's true. So then I said, okay, well, I saw another man, and she said, was it Bill? And I said, yeah. She says, what did he look like? And I described him, and she took a picture out. She opened her phone, and she showed me a picture of him. And these were the two men. And all I can explain about this is that when you are an HSP, or the extreme of an empath, you have the ability, and maybe your whole life you've had this ability, but you maybe ignored it, to go very, very deep into your intuition, and you can really get an idea of your powers. I mean, my clients sometimes call me a medium, and I don't really like that. It feels a little ego-driven for me personally, because I'm kind of from corporate America, and now I'm in a position where I left my job completely to help people with this. But it's about helping people. I love to share information, and that's why I'm doing the podcast. That's why I coach. That's why I do talks. That's why I do workshops. It's to help people gain clarity. So to me, that seems like a powerful word, medium. However, I'm being very honest. I attribute it to people like you, like me, people that have this ability and don't even know it. So let me share just one more story that you might find interesting, to really show you the power of you can call it intuition, you can call it mediumship, you can call it whatever you like. It's a true story, and hopefully you can kind of see how exciting this is. And I so hope you tune in, because I really feel as though if you have any of these gifts, they're going to grow, because they can only grow because you're going to put intention on them, just like watering a plant. So a woman came to me. She saw me speak at the Norwell Library, and she emailed me a couple days later, and she said, hi, Doreen. My name's Jane. Of course, I'm using all fictitious names. My name is Jane, and I'm really stressed out, and I would just love to come in and talk. And I said, okay, would you like Reiki? She says, well, let me talk to you first. And I said, okay. So she came in, and she looked so stressed out. She came running into my studio like, how you doing? And she shuts the door, and she goes, sorry, I'm late. And she was like 10 minutes late. And I said, it's okay. I said, but we start at this time, and I only have so much time for the next person. So, come in, and we'll get right to it. Because she was late. Turns out she has 2 autistic kids, and they're teenagers, and she's so stressed out. She's an accountant. She works from home. Her husband is the second husband, and he's a sweetheart, but he works around the clock, so he's not really home. And she's managing the kids. She's managing the house. And she is overweight. She's the first to say it. You just know, she's just so stressed out. And so I said, after she talked for about 40 minutes, I saw a little text on my phone, even though I have it on Do Not Disturb, I saw it come through that my client was going to be 30 minutes late. So I thought, I'm going to give this woman Reiki. So I said to her, you know what, you've talked to me about what's going on for you. I do think my program would be outstanding for you because we can talk about boundary setting and we can talk about people taking energy from you and giving you tools. And she said she would love that. And I says, well, we can talk about that, but let's take care of you today. So I gave her Reiki and she loved it. She said, I haven't relaxed like that. I don't even think I sleep that well. And she said, but it made me think about something I haven't thought about in a long time. And I said, Reiki does that for you, or any kind of deep meditation or mindfulness, it does that for you. So I said, you want to share it? And I looked at the clock, and she says, I'd love to, but it's kind of a long story. And I said, okay, then why don't you come back? So she came back, and she signed up for my program. It's 3 months long. We met every other week for about an hour and a half. And some days it was virtual when she couldn't make it to the studio. So we were 2 months into it. And she came in one day for her session, and I said to her, my feeling is that instead of talking today, and I know you're going to share with me what happened from last week to this week, and I know you want to, you still can, I could be wrong, but something says to me that it's just time for just a really long, very deep Reiki session for you, because what I understand from the last visits, it's just been a very stressful time. She said, that sounds perfect. And she says, but before we do it, I just want to tell you one thing. And I said, sure. She said, you've helped me really calm down and think about, I really feel like, as you said, Doreen, I feel like I got lost along the way. There's something that I've always wanted to do my whole life, and I've kind of been saving something, which I can't find, she said, but it's helping me move forward, and I want to talk about it next time. And I said, you got it. So I gave her Reiki. During this Reiki session, which was a little longer than normal because I felt she really needed it, my hands were on her sacral, which is where she holds a lot of her stress, and I could feel that, and her crown chakra, which, her head is always spinning, so that's where I had my hand gently placed. I found myself walking down a basement set of stairs. And the basement was in disarray. It looked like someone had just thrown stuff around and it was a dirty mess. I'm picturing now in my mind's eye. And I walked down the stairs and something pulled me to the back left of the basement. And it was pretty dark, but there was one single light at the end. And there was a window that lit that up. That's how I could see it. So I walked towards it. I wasn't frightened for some reason, but I did wonder whose house I was in. It wasn't mine. And I pulled, in my mind's eye, again, giving her Reiki, in my mind's eye, I pulled the light and I saw this file cabinet. And I smelled this horrible smell. And I looked down and I saw this animal. I don't really know what it was, a possum or something. It was disgusting looking and it smelled. But something still drew me to look around the other side of this rather than just get out of the basement. And I looked around the other side and I saw little red eyes looking at me. So I scrunched down, and this is what I saw. I saw a plastic jar. This is exactly what it looked like, with little red buttons that I thought were eyes. And I'll put this here. And I stared at it, and the buttons, and I know this is insane, but the buttons, the eyes to me looked like pleading eyes, like, can you get me out of here? There was rubbish all around. There was a tire against one side, looked like some kind of a tent or something with a pole, but this was here, and there was something leaning on it. But something told me not to take it. So I acknowledged it. I shut the light off, and I went up the stairs, and I passed through a dining room with boxes and boxes and boxes all lined up. Like it was a mess. It was all boxes around a dining room table, all against the perimeter. Then I walked into the kitchen, and something caught my eye on the refrigerator, and there was a picture of an old man. When I say old man, he looked like he was an old man, but the closer I looked at him, he wasn't that old. He looked around 50 or 60, but he was just dressed really haggarded. And I remember staring at it for some reason. And then that was it. It all went away, and I was back in the Reiki room given Reiki, just like that. So when she came out of the Reiki room, she smiled at me and she said, I was going to tell you next week, but I want to tell you today, do we have time? And I looked at the clock, we had 10 minutes, and my next client wasn't coming in for another 15 minutes, and I tried to just have 5 minutes in between energetically for me to kind of decompress. And I said, sure. And she says, well, the thing I want to tell you was that my whole life I loved to sew. And I had bolts and bolts of fabric. And I've always wanted to open up a little studio where I wasn't just a tailor, but I taught people and kids and adults how to sew. And it would be like a consortium, like there'd be a couple of sewing machines around, and people would come and they'd sew and leave, almost like instead of a book club, like a sewing club. And she's talking to me, I'm thinking about this jar of buttons that I saw in a basement. And she was quite pleased with herself. And she says, I'm really excited. I'm really going to start looking at this. Could you help me? I want to build this business. And I said, I can help you because I have all the years of marketing with my business, but is this something you really want to do? This is a big decision. And she said, yeah, I really do. I said, okay, can I share what I saw? And she said, sure. And I told her that I went down to a basement that was quite a mess. And she started laughing, and she said that there was a flood in her basement a couple years ago, and the place was a mess. And she hired someone to come in and clean, but they didn't do a very good job, and they didn't take out half the stuff, and they never had anyone back in, and she hasn't been down there. I said, but I saw a container, like a pretzel container of buttons, and she, oh, you're kidding. And she was so excited that her eyes filled with tears, and I told her to go down her stairs in the far left-hand corner behind the file cabinet, and she would see those buttons. They're on the floor. She was so excited. She jumped out of the chair, gave me a big hug, and she was so excited. She says, I've been saving those buttons, and most of them are my mother's buttons because she sewed and taught me how to sew my whole life, and I thought they tossed them. And she was so, so happy. And then I said, let me just tell you something else too. When I went up the stairs, I said, I could be all off here, but when I went up the stairs, something caught my eye. There was a picture of a man, and she said, who? And I said, I don't know who. There's an older gentleman on your refrigerator. And she said, oh, yes, that's Uncle Mark. And I said, was he important to you? Because for some reason, he's stuck in my mind, like just stuck there. I don't know, I can't give you anything except that he just seems, I don't know, like a supportive, sweet guy. And she said, my father died when I was 3, and he raised us, basically. He raised us. And he was a wonderful guy, and he was always having me repair his socks and his clothes, and he was always disheveled. And she says, I swear he tore things just so I would fix them to tell me how great I was as a seamstress. And I said, well, I think he'd probably be really proud of you because that's who I saw. I saw him on your refrigerator. And she said, he's on my refrigerator. So, I want to share this story with you because, again, I want to say I don't know what this is, but what I do want to share is that I do know that there are more to people than they believe there are. There is the intuition, the sensing, HSPs, empaths. If this is something that you can resonate with and excites you, you're absolutely in the right place. Because each week I'm going to interview fascinating people like this story that achieved incredible results by talking through, gaining clarity, trusting their intuition, and we're going to share their personal experiences, their personal stories. Next week, we're going to have Todd Brettenstein on. He's with the Grateful Garden. It's going to be fantastic. He's got an incredible story to tell. What he wants to talk about with you is nature and how he embraces nature as a highly sensitive person. And I think you're going to find it fantastic. And this is a brilliant way to take that energy down through the course of the day. It's nothing for me in between appointments for myself is to throw my sneakers on, go across the street and walk for a bit on some trails. That totally takes my anxiety and my overwhelm completely to a great level. It's like being on a mini vacation and coming back. Nature has an amazing way it does that, and that's it's one of the keys we're going to talk about. So I hope this was interesting for you. I hope you will stay tuned for next week. And until next time, and in the meantime, if you want to gain more clarity around your gifts, you always can reach out to me. My business is Blossom Healing Studio. You can go blossomhealingstudio.com. Again, I offer Reiki sessions, but I also offer the coaching. And the coaching is what helps people gain clarity, gain confidence, strengthen their intuition, get to that place where it's a very special place and it's absolute freedom. You know, as an HSP, we really are in a special club, and you're welcome to that club with each and every podcast. So thank you so much. I hope you reach out to me. I would love to hear from you if I can be of any help to you, because this is the work I'm doing. This touches my soul, and that's why I am here offering this podcast to you. So thank you, and I hope to see you soon.